Making another video here, chiming in on things. I didn't want to appear insensitive in the last one. I'm just flabbergasted about what's happening in Colorado and people trying to force Catholic schools to let children in that are LGBTQ plus. Not the fact that the court cases are going on and the state's trying to force the parishes to do it, but the fact that parents are that. These are kids from 4 to 6. Well, some, 6. My daughter was in kindergarten when she was 6 because she's a September birthday. So, that being said, anyway, it's just mind-boggling. And parents who would push their children, oh, you're LGBTQ plus. I don't know. I really don't know. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. I can't understand it. But anyway, and I've lived abroad. It's not something just reserved to the U.S. I've dealt with it abroad. In-laws, having to say to little boys, stop wearing girls' clothes. You're 7, you're not a girl. It's that. And people think I'm abusive. Nobody did when I was abroad. They thought it was funny. They're like, oh, here comes Tito Chris. Stop doing that because he's going to lecture you. But, if people want to really look at their identity, let them go through puberty first. And if there's no biological imperative that their biological imperative does not match their physical gender, then there's doors open to, consider other things. But certainly not rush to decision when somebody haven't even went through puberty yet. You're altering their entire physical development by changing things before they're even started to change biologically. I believe that is I believe it's child abuse. Until somebody has at least went through puberty, I think that the state should prevent transitioning. Let them go through puberty first, then see how they feel, see how they identify, and then go through the normal transition process. First dressing and then associating and then creating, a different social environment for the new gender, the whole process. The renaming, all of these things. And then, the hormones, and then anyway. But, yeah, as children, no. But this video isn't about that. This video is about Michigan's 24% excise tax. I didn't believe it when I read it. I thought it was some kind of hoax. But that's multiple outlets, so that's crazy, Whether you like the marijuana industry or not, everybody knew somebody who grew it in their garage. Everybody. You got lawyers, doctors, politicians, judges, mayors. Then you got farmers. Then you got hunters. All kinds of people knew somebody in their family that grew it in their garage. But some people won't admit it. Well, it's legal now. And not only can you do it legally, but you can start a business and then take that cash that's so like hot potato cash and invest it elsewhere and grow and create jobs and build an economy off weed. That's great. Why not? But 24% excise tax, that is absolutely insane. I have a security company on paper. We haven't moved forward with anything because my partner disappeared. Um, After I asked for all of his identity documents, somebody I knew for what, maybe 6, 7, 8 months. Um, but anyway, so I don't know what'll happen with that, um, but anyway, it specializes in everything that I learned in graduate school involving, investigation, intelligence research, force protection, everything I learned as a civilian contractor for the Army, and then everything I learned in the military for force protection, and applies it to the marijuana industry. It takes loss and prevention a lot deeper. It's like loss and prevention on super steroids. Um, Involving everything reconnaissance, surveillance, everything to protect the product, protect the people. Because believe it or not, there are people every now and then who will try to break into a dispensary when it's closed, or on very rare occasions, but there have been some, even in Michigan, where people will break in armed. And they don't hurt anybody. They want product, but they don't hurt anybody. The only reason we can say that is because nobody has tried to prevent them. They just let the product go. What would happen if people said, no, this is my family's grow. We have 3,000 plants here. You're not going to take any of our product. What would happen then? So we specialized in that. I mean, other stuff too, background checks. Again, like I said, surveillance, investigations, financial. We were going to take things everywhere. We had a lot of automation and apps and stuff. But anyway, so, we're very professionally invested in the marijuana industry. And, they provide tremendous service because, again, they provide jobs to people that, significant jobs, a lot of jobs. I think it was 24,000 jobs in the state of Michigan related to or directly in the marijuana industry. That's pretty good. That's a lot of jobs. And, you can't forget the cash that's invested into the community as well. Nobody tabulates that. The owners, the investors do. But, and, part of the compliance, I had to memorize the compliance. That was one of the bragging points for our company, was the fact that I memorized all the compliance rules. That way, we would be able to directly help these companies, because a lot of the security companies, it's a great thing. Also, they hire a lot of vets to do security, a lot of vets. And, we would be one of the very few companies that are very well versed in the compliance laws. That way we can help the company. There's very few that are versed in the compliance laws. And we were going to make that one of our selling points. But, so they provide not only the security for their dispensaries, but they help fund the police themselves. Compliance laws require them to provide so much towards either hiring. They would directly pay the salary of they call them marijuana police officers, or they would give the cash to townships, cities, counties, etc., to through a tracked wire transfer that would go to these governments to pay the salaries or buy equipment for law enforcement. And I mean, that's just the beginning. They have to be fenced and have surveillance. So they provide, additional security for the neighborhoods around the grows and the dispensary because of all the cameras. So these are good things. And, you got your trimmers, your growers, you got I think it's two separate things. I think a trimmer and a grower is separate. And then you got your transporters, and then you got your people, doing preparation, the chemists in the back. It's a lot of people. And then you got your investors, everybody from somebody that just got SSI all the way up to people who decided to invest in a Michigan marijuana grow that are from Hollywood or Motown, all over. And different kinds, different walks of life. And, the articles were talking about the 24% tax. We've already had, some big companies in marijuana pulling out of the state, taking their grows elsewhere. I think that's crazy. There's a point where you get greedy. It's getting greedy. If they want to tax something, why don't they go after tobacco? Add another tobacco tax. Let me tell you, people are paying $25 for a carton of cigarettes. They're going to pay 26. They're going to pay 27. They'll probably start quitting. Some of the people that I've known in my life, they'll start quitting maybe when you hit 40 or 50 bucks. Why tax marijuana that's not as destructive? I mean, yeah, we got irresponsible people. Hey, I'm going to smoke and drive, or yeah, I'm going to sit in my house watching TV with my kids and get stoned. Yeah. But then again, you have that people smoking in their house and driving in their car with their kids, drinking and smoking cigarettes. What's the difference? You got people drinking and driving. I would put more funding on the police to catch people who are smoking, who are smoking weed and driving, or vaping weed and driving. That would nip that in the butt. Put more funding in that. I mean, it's a moneymaker anyway. Going to get him in front of a judge. They're going to pay court fees. They're going to pay some kind of punitive measure. And if they go to the clink for a while, they're going to pay some for that too. So, it's a moneymaker, and it's a deterrent. Oh, you want to get stoned or chew some, 5 gummies while you're driving around town? Okay. You're going to pay for it, literally. But overall, marijuana is not half as destructive as other stuff. Alcohol, tobacco, not even half as destructive. So I don't know why they're doing that, taxing the heck out of marijuana. Even if it's, coming from conservatives or moderates, I think it's dumb. It's nothing like shooting yourself in the foot. Here we have a state that's having brain drain, state that has to beg and bleed to Washington, New York, LA, Minneapolis to get investment, in its infrastructure, and to get, good contracts like DOD or other agency contracts. I think it's dumb. Nothing like shooting yourself in the foot.